If you've been playing Star Citizen long enough, there's a good chance that while in Armistice Zone, somebody has come in and either rammed your ship, or you've seen people in Global talking about pad ramming. What can CIG do to fix this? Let's talk. The main issue at hand is that CIG decided to make the planet side and moon side outpost hard armistice zones. What this means is simply that your weapons do not work inside the armistice bubble. Now, your ship won't take damage from any kind of repeater fire or missiles because there's that bubble of invincibility around, but it doesn't stop somebody from flying a ship or vehicle into your ship while you're parked on a pad or inside that armistice zone and blowing it up. Now, this is a point of contention where a lot of players seem to be divided. Some players call for the armistice zones to be there forever, while others say that they should just go away in their entirety. CIG has said that they plan to get rid of armistice zones in the future. However, they have to come up with a viable solution. As the criminality system gets worked out and law and punishment get worked and fleshed out a little more, it still doesn't benefit to just lift all armistice zones for now. So what could be the interim solution? What could CIG do to kind of fix or work on fixing this problem? See, to think CIG is just going to lift all armistice zones from every planet side or moon side location is, quite honestly, just absurd. They're not going to do that. It's going to take way too much resources and way too much time to flesh it out, and reality is that there's probably going to be issues with it. So why do it to everything? See, the proper approach, what I think, is CIG should go out there and pick one, maybe two places, somewhat common trade routes or places where traders or players have been going to. I'm sure they have the analytics for it, and remove the armistice bubble. Maybe turn it into a soft armistice like a space station, where weapons are no longer locked. However, what you're going to implement there is what? Simply some turrets. Install 3 or 4 turrets around the armistice zone out there, similar to a bunker defense or even a space station. Let these turrets aggro somebody. If you missile lock somebody in armistice, you turn red and the turrets begin to fire at you. If you fire a missile or ram another ship or bump another ship, you turn red, the turrets aggro you. Now, this isn't the end-all say-all. This isn't going to solve all the issues and problems will arise. But in order to test this and see how this would work, CIG needs to implement this. Now, yes, you could say that they're going to implement this in some PTU patch and see how it works, but reality is based on CIG's own admission, not a lot of players are playing the PTU. This is something that needs to get pushed to the live release. If anything, put it out with a hotfix and see how it works, and if it doesn't, just revert it back to how it was. Adding some turrets and changing the armistice zone rules for a certain post might work. Implement some spawning NPCs there, where if a hostile player is detected within 5 or 10 kilometers of that zone after, let's say, a minute or two, the game will spawn in a NPC hammerhead. If the hammerhead gets there and there's no red players for 5 or 10 minutes, it'll quantum jump away and go to another place. These little things, while they won't fix everything and maybe not necessarily deter all players from doing it, start to offer different options and just having a bubble of invincibility that's there, and quite honestly gives players the opportunity to defend themselves. Now, there is the issue too that if a player tries to defend himself from within the armistice zones, he might be unwillingly targeted and considered red by the defenses there. Well, there really is no way around this right now until we test this. It's gonna happen. You will accidentally get shot or aggroed by the station, but reality is we need to see how often this happens versus how often the station aggro's a proper person. Another thing to consider is that with reputation possibly on the horizon, that could be a factor on how aggressive these turrets are at you. If you have a high criminal reputation over here, these turrets might aggro you a little sooner than later, but if you're more of a lawful player, then the turrets really just don't bother you. The flip side to this is that would probably require having a mining post or two that are probably a little more lax, or don't have turrets at all, that are just completely armistice zone free. A Wild West, if you will, for criminals to get fuel and rearm. I mean, CIG could leave Grimhex as the only place that will accept people with crime stats or with bad reputation, but that's really not feasible if you're somewhere at Microtech or ArtCore and need to refuel your ship. The flip side to this too is that by turning the armistice zones into a soft armistice zone on the ground, it helps out with things like bounty hunters. Now, a crime-statted player or a pirate can no longer just hide inside an armistice zone bubble and wait out his escorts or backup to get there. He has to figure out either he's going to fight or he's going to flee. As with all changes, not everybody's always going to be happy. But the only way we can start making progress is to change things that have been status quo for a while. Changing these armistice zones might help out, or it might make things a little more frustrating. CIG could honestly get ahead of the curve and just change out a couple locations, like I said, and see how it goes. By doing this, CIG can gather some player feedback and tweak things to make things better. And when the time is right, and they have it for the most part figured out, should be an easier transition, whether they remove all Armistice zones or transfer them all to, let's say, a soft Armistice zone. With all that being said, what are your thoughts on the topic? Do you think CIG should just cancel all Armistice zones? Do you think they should implement a modified soft Armistice zones with some turrets on the ground, or they just leave everything status quo until a later date? With that said, I'm Stranger, and I'll see you guys in the